Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse, and you are our wonderful Patreon patrons. Welcome to the Patreon bonus stories.
I want to get right into it. I want to get right into where we left off because I'm hepped up.
I do too.
But you got something else on your mind?
I have some news, but we'll share it at the end of this show.
Okay. So we were talking about Greta Thunberg coming over to New York, getting everyone excited. The New York Public Schools actually said, okay, kids, on the 20th, you can take Friday off. We won't count your absence. That's great, right?
If the parents have consent and they give in a note, and then the parents are there to pick up younger children, like it's complicated. They didn't just say we canceled school, everyone.
No, but they
continued school.
Yeah,
and you just had to get your parents' permission. It's basically like any day of school,
right?
It's just that.
Okay, but
not a lot of kids are going to be in school.
Here's the thing. Greta's been doing this over in Europe, along with thousands of kids over there for a year, right? There's been many, many school districts and places where they've been actually taking Friday.
Every week.
Right.
On Friday.
Right. America, I know there's been little pockets of it, but for the most part, by and large, the media has been like, don't talk about that, to keep it quiet.
We basically never heard about it. And when we do, it's like, well, that's what they're doing in Sweden or Denmark, wherever the hell that is. But we're here in America. We're getting stuff accomplished.
I mean, take a look at this clip from CBS of Greta. She was on the morning show, and the talking head guy asked her this.
This began as a one-kid hunger strike in Sweden.
No.
And
Not
now,
hunger strike.
No?
School strike.
School strike.
Okay.
Even better.
Okay, so yeah. So this guy, basically, I guess he was like, someone just talking in his ear is like, oh yeah, you're talking to Greta Thunberg. Ask her about the hunger strike she was doing.
Right.
He didn't even know what the heck. She's been in the news for a year.
Right.
Okay. And he didn't even know. It makes me so angry. It's not like he misspoke. He actually thought she was on a hunger strike.
Right. She's like, no, I did a school strike. And they're like, oh, I don't know what that means, but I'm going to act like, oh.
So cute. You were in a boat. You're Swedish.
Oh, my God.
So anyway, this is the media. And here's the conundrum. Okay. Yeah. The mayor tweeted out that, okay, kids, yes, it's fine if you want to take the 20th off. What's he going to do on the 27th?
Right. A week later, the next Friday.
Because, these strikes are supposed to happen every Friday until we fix the damn problem. They're not supposed to be some cute little thing that we do to be like, okay, I striked for once.
It's not just that kids don't have to go to school, right? It's because what's the point of forcing children to go to school to learn things if their future is going to be awful?
Right. And when they asked Greta she was on the Daily Show, for instance, and, Noah asked her, what's different here in New York than back where you came from in Sweden? And she said, well, here, there's people who actually talk about this as if they don't believe it, as if climate change isn't real. Whereas back in Europe, everyone knows it's real. Now, they may not be doing enough about it, but they know it's real.
Right.
Here, there's people who walk around going like, I don't think that's real. And she's like, what?
Right.
And so he asked her, what should we do? And she's like, well, first we need to educate ourselves that it's real. It's scientifically true. It's happening. So why should you go to school?
Right.
If your school system's not screaming every day about this and saying like, this is something we need to talk about.
Right.
Because, during the Cold War, you'd go to school. And my dad told me stories about how they would learn duck and cover, and they would learn to get under their tables in case a nuclear attack happened. And every day there was drills for this imminent attack.
Right. Which wouldn't help, obviously, because you think really your desk is going to save you from a freaking nuclear explosion.
Right.
It's not going to do
But to put it in
anything.
perspective,
right.
They thought this thing was going to happen and they wanted to prepare the kids. Okay. Well, this other new thing is happening, right? This global climate change is happening. We need to prepare the kids. So what are you doing? Teaching them nothing about it.
Right. Yeah.
What's going to happen on the 27th? Because here's what I think. I think Mayor de Blasio, I think he's liberal. I think that he probably cares about this a lot. But I don't think that he knows what's going to happen. Because on the 27th, if enough kids decide to continue to strike and not go to school, and then the week after and the week after, he's going to have one of the largest school systems in the world with kids who are just going to be striking. Which means that the media is not going to be able to ignore it, which means that other cities in the world are going to go, hey, wait a minute, New York.
Right. What are they going to do? Because it's
Tokyo, LA,
right.
Shanghai, wherever. They're going to go, hey, we're going to do it too.
Obviously, children don't have jobs. So it's not like the power is going to go out. It's not like the trash isn't going to get collected. It's not like, oh no, the factory's shut down because they're on strike. Like, they're children.
Right.
But they're children. You have to look after them. So obviously it's more of a pain for parents, which is a problem in this scenario because it puts a lot more pressure on parents.
This is great.
Right.
This is great.
You really have to have kids who really care about it.
But I mean, we need to wake people up. And what's going to wake people up more than kids sitting outside schools,
shutting down New York City every Friday?
Yes. I think it's great because it's going to force the governments to go, crap, we can't keep doing this every week.
Right. And this is where
parents are going to get upset.
Right.
Everyone's going to get upset. Teachers, parents, police officers, everyone.
What are you gonna? You're gonna be like, oh well, you had too many absences, so we're gonna hold you back a year. What, for hundreds and hundreds of kids? You're gonna need to hire more teachers. I mean,
right? They're in a conundrum.
It's going to be insane, and so that's the whole point.
Right.
Is that you need to do something.
Right.
It's not just like okay, well, we're going to allow you to have your one day of not going to school, and then you're all going back to school the next Friday. Thank you for doing this. This is a good thing that you did. We're just so happy that you got to express yourselves, but we really do have to keep everything kind of under control. We don't want any kind of chaos going on, because, just wouldn't be very good for public if there's,
we can do something about this.
Right.
The thing is, there are solutions. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take money, but we can do something about it. The powers that be, though, they don't want to spend the money.
Why don't they want to spend the money? Why? It's just it's a pretty easy problem to fix. You're just like, okay, no more fossil fuels, and we're just going to start building renewable energy like it's the end of the world, because it is. What's stopping them? They're going, I'm very rich.
Yes.
What? Would this truly affect me? No, it wouldn't, because you have all the money in the world. Right. So if you want to buy a bunker somewhere where climate change is not going to affect you, you're like, that's it. Up in the Yukon, it will be quite enjoyable.
Yes.
The climate will be fine up there, right?
Yep.
You're just going to, okay, and you're going to have a bunch of bodyguards that are going to protect you from people who want to get your wealth.
They're going to die long before the bad stuff happens.
And my children will be well looked after with all of my fortune. Right. That's all. That's it. They don't need to worry about it. So all they have to do is, the poor and the rest of the world will burn, but I am rich enough that it doesn't affect me. And that's all that it is.
That's all it is.
And so all we have to do is make the world so that they're like,
no, that's it right there. The conundrum is that on one side, you're going to get all of the who Jesse just played, all of those rich people who are going to be calling the politicians and saying, take care of this.
Right.
And on the other side,
unleash the police on them.
You're going to have thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of school children. And that's exactly what we need.
Right.
Because the politicians, they're going to try and do what the rich people tell them to do, but on the other side, they're going to have millions of school children. What can they do with them? They can't lock them up. They can keep them back if they want for a year. They'll still be school children.
That'll be chaos.
That's the beauty of what is going on here. Is we finally got a situation where you can't look. The media can easily turn on any group like union workers and be like, union workers, we're going to just say that you're corrupt or whatever. Like, you can't say that school children are corrupt.
Right.
Sorry, you can't.
Children.
Try it.
Right.
You can't. You can't lock them up. You can't. Anything you try and do to them backfires. So it's a brilliant chess move.
Tear gas does not work.
But here's the thing: if they don't come out on the 27th, game is over.
Right.
So this is very key here. Yes, everyone's got to get out there on the 20th and during that week. But we also got to get out there the following week and the following week and the following week. Because if we don't do that, it's over.
It's over. And we've lost that bargaining chip, that power. Because ultimately, we the people have the power. That was the whole point of the Constitution. Right. The Second Amendment's super contentious. Why is it super contentious? Because the people are supposed to have the power to overthrow the government.
Right.
Problematic. I'm not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. That was the point of it.
Right. And here's the thing. You might be sitting there right now going, okay, wait, I got to go to what on the 20th? Yeah, you got to go to this website, find a local thing that's going on in your area. Maybe you have to drive to it in your electric car. Maybe you have to bike to it.
Pull your kids out of school, whatever.
Pull your kids out of school. If it's
you can go there in whatever car.
Right.
Okay? Like, look.
Carpool.
It doesn't... we need to change the system.
Right.
And we do a lot of individual things. We talk about a lot of individual things that you can do, like light bulbs and what car you use. Maybe you can go on a bike, and that helps, but not as much as legislation will help.
Exactly. We got to show bodies. We got to show that there's people behind this. And
pull your kids out of school.
Yeah.
And there's no point in them going to school. I know that you don't want to listen to that part of your brain. It's what's
they're going to learn about government on this day. They're going to go, wow, we're learning that we actually have power. We have a voice.
Right.
It's very powerful. But you got to do something on that day.
Something.
Yeah. And let's move on to what you wanted to talk about, which is the fact that we every month do a live stream with you guys. And this is the kind of stuff we love to talk about with you guys, to find out like how it went and what's going on in your lives and what should we be talking about. So we're doing a live stream on Thursday, September 19th at 1:00, and that's Eastern time. So like if you're in the UK, that's going to be at 6:00 in the evening. If you're in most parts of Europe, it's 7. If you're in Australia, it's 1:00 in the morning. So that probably won't work. But if you're in California, it's like 10:00 in the morning.
Something like that.
Anyway, we're trying. This is one of our first weekday ones that we're doing, so we're just trying different times.
Yep.
But we love to hang out with you guys and chat, and you can always watch these later. If you're a Patreon supporter at the $8 or more level, you can go back and watch all of the ones that we've had.
Right.
And we love to sit down and chat with you guys, and you guys can actually talk to us in a chat
box and we're listening, we're answering questions, so it should be fun. We hope to see you there. Let's talk about
here's some good news.
Let's talk about this.
Check this out.
Boom, baby. Yeah.
See this video here?
Yes.
Okay, so you see what's falling down?
Yeah, that's a coal plant.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
That is not only a coal plant.
Bye-bye.
That was the largest coal plant in North America from 1972 to 2013.
Yep.
It was a huge coal plant, and it's partially being replaced by 44 megawatt solar field.
Right where it was.
Yep. Now, if we look at this Google Maps image of right where it was, look to the north there.
Yep. See that water right there?
Yeah.
That is a coal ash pond.
Ooh, you want to go fishing there?
So fun. This is a poison pond. It's full of poison.
Oh, that's great.
That they made from the coal plant. So you got this poison pond. Now, if you look to the south, you might see some water.
Uh-huh.
That's Lake Erie.
Oh.
The big lake, right? Has a lot of places on that lake. A lot of cities on that lake.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
After you get rid of the coal plant, what happens to the coal pond?
I don't know.
I mean, how do you clean that
What a
up?
wonderful question. Well, I guess you get a big shovel and you scoop it. Where do you put that? It's poison. It's full of radioactive material. You do not want to be anywhere near that.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
It's right next to Lake Erie.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that stuff doesn't get into Lake Erie in the next few decades?
Oh, it's in that pond. So you just hope that there's no kind of like flooding or like any kind of wind or some kind of problem where that is going to leak into Lake Erie and just poison all the big. It's a great lake.
I really think we should teach this in schools. I really think that we should talk about this. Should be a class.
Yeah, energy. Okay, coal plant. Let's talk about the whole thing. You need a huge area that you just dump coal, and then they gotta put it into the coal-fired power plant.
Because I would love to see kids going home that day when they learn that and having dinner with their family and being like, "What'd you learn today, Johnny?" Well, I learned this thing that I don't think it's true, Dad. Mom, they built a coal plant?
Take a field trip to a coal power plant. Okay, everyone put on your masks. Make sure that it's tight. You don't want to breathe in this. It's bad for you.
Yeah.
Right? You go there. You're like, all right, here's the coal. You're walking in the coal, right? You have to wear special booties because your shoes are going to get absolutely covered in coal dust.
Oh, and I think they should learn about where the coal comes from. Like people who have to dig it out of the ground.
Visit a coal mine. It's insane.
You know how when you learn about past centuries and you learn about practices that took place, like I don't know, leeching people,
or they're like, it would just put all of the poop into a hole, and then it probably goes into the local water supply. Whatever. Oh, we all have dysentery. Well, isn't that a problem?
So when you hear about that and you're like, how could they be so stupid? And that's what we're doing now.
Exactly. We're like, oh, well, get all the coal, and then there's a lot of ash, and we just put it in this pond. And people get all bent out of shape about like solar and wind, and they're like, oh, hey, how are you going to recycle that? It's like, Probably by like collecting it and then bringing it to a place. Like, how are you going to recycle the coal ash pond?
I just love how people who are against solar bring up stuff like, there's all sorts of stuff in there like cadmium and stuff, and what's going to happen when it breaks.
Right. And it's like, okay, so you want just a coal power plant spewing all sorts of nasty chemicals into the air, and then the stuff that doesn't get spewed into the air because we regulated it, because we have governments that regulate that kind of thing, it gets just pumped into a pond that's probably next to a big body of water. Right. Why do you need the big body of water? Why does it always seem to be next to a big body of water? Because you need to cool the power plant, which means it's pretty much always next to a big body of water, which means that whenever there's a hurricane, that your ash pond gets thrown out into that big body of water. Exactly. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that wonderful?
Another thing is that now that hurricanes are moving to places they never moved to before, they're moving far further north than they ever did before.
So now we have places that have not been prepared for it.
Dorian went up and hit Greenland at the end of its spin.
Like Nova Scotia, smashed into Nova Scotia. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's troubling. And also with the recycling thing, the hell do you think you do with the freaking thing that we just blew up?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So
where you put it in a dumpster you dump it somewhere.
I love how TV loves to show you fun things like, let's watch it blow up, and then when it gets all smoky, we'll stop the shot. That's not fun to watch.
It's going to be hundreds of man hours to collect it and put it into trucks and then truck it somewhere and dump it into just the world.
And it wasn't like it's clean concrete or something.
Right. It was a coal power plant.
It's a coal power plant.
You blew it up.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, I'm glad that the coal power plant is gone, but like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Is it still there? Like, I mean, you still have all of the stuff that was the coal power plant. Thankfully, it's not burning any more coal.
Yeah, thank goodness.
But you have the coal ash pond there. You have it's like contaminated.
But you know what? Let's take it as a win. It's good news.
It is good news.
All right, let's move on to this story from CNBC. Let's see what they have to say about Tesla.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk recently traveled to China, and he returned with a tax break for the electric car maker. Musk met with China's transportation minister while visiting Tesla's new Gigafactory being built in Shanghai. The announcement of the tax break came after that meeting, which pushed shares higher on Friday. Here to discuss Tesla and China's impact on the company, Colin Rush, senior research analyst and managing director at Oppenheimer & Company, and Craig Irwin, senior research analyst at Roth Capital Partners. Guys, good to have you with us. Colin, I'll start with you. This is good. It's the 10% tax that foreign vehicles face, but at the same time, China's going to increase auto tariffs overall in December. So this is a small offset, no?
It's a small victory short term for them in terms of some of the near term sales. I think it's a small boost. Ultimately, what they're doing is ramping capacity in China where they'll avoid all of these taxes. And that's really where they can see some real benefit from that relationship. And I think this is a nice to have, but and a small positive, but not a huge deal for them.
Does it look to you that the Model 3 production promised by the end of the year is going to happen?
It looks like they'll start, and we haven't expected them to have real volume. It's just modest test runs, and we think they'll definitely get that this year. They're ramping on schedule, and next year is a really important year for them as they move into a year where they need to ramp and really show some of the operating leverage that they promised the street.
Mm-hmm. Craig, you've been bearish Tesla for a long time, so what are you going to say about this? This tax break that they're getting.
I got to give Elon credit, right? This is an environment where we're seeing U.S. and Chinese tariffs put in place left and right. And here he gets a reprieve from a 10% tax credit. Treatment very much like a domestic Chinese automaker. That's a big deal. So it might be, I agree that it's minor from a financial standpoint, but it shows that they're approaching things correctly. It also shows that there's, in the bigger picture, actually green light out there, a good potential outcome as we look for constructive ways to work with partners.
Does this make you a little bit more bullish on the Tesla story, knowing that his relationship in China looks, at least at this point, to be a pretty good one?
So, if you look at the longer term for China, the fact that they're going to be paying $323 million a year in taxes after 23, that shows they're looking at a fairly serious ramp in China. They're expecting a fairly serious ramp. He has done basically what he said he would do as far as sales of the S and the X and the 3. They might not have been at the trajectory he wanted, but we're going to see something similar in China. I think we're probably going to see some success with a couple 100,000 cars out over the next few years. And that would be a big deal. That would be positive, and it'll probably end up being their most important market.
You sound like you're getting more positive on Tesla. Are you?
Well, fundamentally this year, I think we need to see what happens with the Taycan. So the Porsche Taycan launches next Tuesday in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Auto Show. There's already 20,000 announced orders there. You could really see Porsche do very much what it did with the Cayenne and then the Macan. So order numbers there doubled and doubled for a couple years. It could be very interesting.
Policy question for you. This is in the Wall Street Journal this morning, the op-ed, subsidize my electric car, please. As you know, for so very long, Elon Musk actually said that once the subsidies went away, it would actually help Tesla, hurt everybody else, because the 200,000 car limit, which was the tariffs, or not tariffs, but the subsidies roll off after 200,000 cars. Tesla's already had that, so has GM. Now they're asking for the next 400,000 cars, and Elon Musk has jumped on board for that subsidy. Does that make sense? And do you think we should be subsidizing these cars at this point?
I do. I mean, if we're going to facilitate a technology change in the auto industry, there needs to be some support.
The Journal would say this has been going on for 30 years, though.
And we're supporting innovation in all industries across sectors. So there's no real change to the policy there. What's happened, which is fascinating to me, is how slow the auto industry has been to actually invest in this sort of change and actually fulfill this. It's actually much harder.
Do you think there's something fundamental that's beyond just about either the technology itself or about the cost of
I think there's multiple reasons. One, the technology is harder than people give it credit for. Two, the cultural issues in these organizations in terms of innovating and actually needing to innovate. And then the fact that they're playing the field. They're hedging their bets with hybrids and other technologies, and so they're not committing. And Tesla's done one thing right in terms of committing to a single technology and going forward in that and kind of forcing themselves into innovating to survive. And even though that's hard short term sometimes, over the long term, I think it is going to pay dividends.
How much does demand increase? I mean, right now it's rolled off, right? So they reached 200,000, so it's half, and it'll halve at every milestone. What is the math on if we extended it by $7,000 per vehicle for the next 400,000?
I mean, for Tesla, it's just margin at this point. I mean, they really don't have serious competition right now from a product perspective. Consumers want the vehicles, and so for them to get this tax credit is just pure margin for them. And I don't think that makes that is a mistake for them.
I ask a question. You just said that there's no competition. There's no competition maybe if you're talking about straight EVs that are in this particular area, but that assumes that the buyer of a Tesla is doing it for all of these reasons. Wants an EV, wants a high-end luxury EV, yep. Sure, but that's
high-end luxury is the hook. The only place
I think it's a mid-range luxury. It's not high-end luxury at this point.
The only place I see the nice Teslas are really rich neighborhoods. I can't believe those people need
$45,000, $50,000. It's
no, the $150,000.
That market is already fading.
If you polled a Tesla owner today and said, did you buy this car because it was an EV, or did you buy this car because you just love the car, you love the handling, all the other features, what percent would say it was because it was an EV? That, to me, is the fundamental question around Tesla.
I think it's a false question to try and separate it into both things. Why? I think they can buy it for multiple reasons. Like, they bought it because it's an EV and it was a cool car.
What should we not subsidize? Anyone's pie-in-the-sky idea of transitioning to what the future should look like? I don't understand. Should we subsidize Solyndra? Should we subsidize all wind power if it never becomes, why are you laughing at that?
Because we're subsidizing the oil industry as is. I mean, let's talk to you. I mean, what industries shouldn't we subsidize and what should we subsidize? I mean,
that's a good question. I mean, we can't subsidize everyone, just not the ones you like and think that are going to eventually help.
It's not just me. I'm saying we need to innovate in the economy and support that. And that is an across industries.
Free market is pretty well innovating in general, though, doesn't it? Typically, does it do okay?
It's done, yeah, of course. But we're subsidizing industry.
There are some problems when you subsidize. I mean, you can go over to Europe and look at certain energy that's been subsidized over there that shouldn't have been probably, and people are paying rates that are much higher than they should be.
To the earlier point, though, I mean, Colin, you yourself said that if we had a further subsidy, it would just mean gross margin for Tesla.
Without question at this point.
So that because people already want the cars. So then there's not a need. That's not a need for a subsidy.
It's not driving demand, but it is helping the automakers.
But if it's not driving demand, you answer the question. If you poll a Tesla user, how much of it is about the EV component versus all the other factors?
None of it. I mean, people are buying the cars because they like the cars because Tesla's making great cars, and that's why I agree with Colin that basically this is just going to be something that helps Tesla on the margin. I personally hate subsidies, right? I don't like picking winners and losers, from a federal subsidy or a state subsidy. I think the right thing is to let the free market decide. And there's buyers for these cars, and that's the big deal is that there's buyers for EVs at a range of price points from 25 to 125 or 225. And this market is real and it's growing today, and we should let the market work.
Okay, so you got two two guys on there who, follow Tesla. They're both very negative on Tesla, but you know what's funny?
They were both pretty positive.
They're both pretty positive, and they were trying so hard, those talking heads on CNBC, they were trying so hard to get him to say some negative stuff, and they really weren't.
They're like, they're doing pretty well. Like, have you seen?
Okay, but let's talk about, what's his name there, Mr. Grouchy.
My God.
Who basically was like, I don't know, what was someone telling him to say that, or was it just let off his muzzle and let him just start being grandpa? What the heck was that all about?
The crazy thing about these television programs, right, is that they have people that they have on because they need to do that because obviously you can't have these bozos talking, rattling on for the entire show. So they have on experts, and luckily they both seem to have an understanding of Tesla, right? They do understand what's going on because they actually had to study it. They had to sit down, and it's been a while. That's another key point. They haven't both just sort of come into this, and this isn't their first time looking at the company, because when you first look at Tesla, you're like, whoa, this is weird. This is an electric car company? That hasn't happened before.
Right.
They've been following it for a while. They know, they get it. And so this first, the guy on the right had already been on, and he was pretty negative on Tesla.
Right.
So they were like, great, we're going to have this guy on, we're going to have this guy who's going to be a little positive, but overall, we're going to spin Tesla down.
Yep.
Right? Bad, Tesla bad. So
didn't work out.
Did not work out. So they're just yelling at them, being like, tell me how Tesla's better. Tell me. You can't tell. You don't know anything. Ah! And then they end it, and you know for a fact that those guys are never going to be back on that show.
I mean, if they are, they're going to have to promise to behave better.
Right. They're going to have a muzzle on them. They're going to be like, tell us about this latest Tesla scandal that we created out of thin air.
Yeah, I just love how they try to make it seem like something is going to happen that isn't happening. It's really embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing. It's scary. It's really scary. Like, this is what, when you read books, when you read them, this is what they talk about.
Yeah.
It's scary.
This is the 1984.
It's so Orwellian.
Yes,
it is. So Orwellian.
If you had this in a movie, people would come out of the movie and they'd go, that was so unbelievable. Right. That's not how it would ever happen.
Right.
That's how it happens.
It's all like right. Fahrenheit 451.
Let's talk about this. This is the 8th largest bank, this French banking group, BNP Paribas. They're the largest bank in the Eurozone and the 8th largest in the world. Now, according to a recent report from the bank's asset management division, the combination of renewable energy and electric vehicles is over 6 times more efficient at delivering mobility than the current oil-based system. Now, this is a report that is authored by Mark Lewis. He's the company's global head of sustainability research.
Okay,
now,
well, duh, I could have told you that.
All right, he says, we calculate that to get the same amount of mobility from gasoline as from new renewables in tandem with EVs over the next 25 years would cost 6.2 to 7 times more.
So he's saying, wait, what is he saying? He's saying EVs will cost less than gasoline.
Yes.
By 6
and the way they're counting
times.
that is mobility. So let me go on. So indeed, even if we add in the cost of building new network infrastructure to cope with all the new wind and or solar capacity implied by replacing gasoline with renewables and EVs, the economics of renewables still crush those of oil.
So if you want people to be able to move, it's better to switch, not just live in a world that has magic renewable energy and EVs, switch to electric cars.
Right.
And it's going to be cheaper. So, when we're talking about autonomous EVs and people are saying like, why are people, people are going to be traveling a lot in these EVs. This is crazy. We have this 6 to 7 times cheaper to switch.
Right.
That's why you're going to be able to just be like, oh, I need to go $3. I guess I'll just get like a Tesla to get me there. And it would still make sense.
Right. I mean, it says that renewables win the day because of their low marginal costs and because of the huge expense of transporting and refining petroleum products. This is something we always are saying.
Yep.
Whenever they try and compare like EVs to something, they never count that.
Right.
The moving and the expense of transporting and refining petroleum products.
They always compare it from the pump.
Yep.
And then they point to EVs and they go, you have a long tailpipe.
Right.
Your tailpipe leads all the way to a coal plant.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, buddy.
And you know what?
Where the hell does your pump go?
And you know, yeah,
it goes all the way from war. A drill. Right. You had to kill a bunch of people so that way you can control the land where the oil was. You pump that out of the ground. Then you have to transport all this crude oil either through a pipeline or you got to put it on a ship, and then the ship sinks and it leaks oil everywhere.
And also you've got to put a military to protect it.
Right. You have to protect that because people, it's just money at this point.
You don't protect solar fields. When's the last time you saw guards walking around a solar field?
Right. They just put up a fence.
Right.
That's all you really need. The only thing you can do to solar field is like jump on the solar panels. There's no you can't go and steal the solar panels. It's not going to help you.
Now, goes on to say EVs convert about 59 to 62% of the electrical energy from the grid to power at the wheels. Conventional gasoline vehicles only convert about 17 to 21% of the energy stored in gasoline to power at the wheels. These report calculations are based solely on the cost of mobility. They do not even take into account any environmental or health benefits. Now, what does that mean?
It means I want to jump on my chair. It means I want to jump on the roof of this building and just start screaming, because this is what we've been talking about the whole time, right? We've been doing this for 3 years. We knew this.
The good news is that this is a bank, all right? And banks care about what?
They care about money.
And they get it now. They're going, oh, okay, so this is cheaper. So what are we going to invest in? Solar and wind. That's what they're going to do. And this is a big bank, the 8th largest in the world.
It doesn't even take into account the environmental impacts. Do you know how huge that is?
I just want to read this last quote here. If all of this sounds far-fetched, then the speed limit with which the competitive landscape of the European utility industry has been reshaped over the last decade by the rollout of wind and solar power and the billions of euros of fossil fuel generation assets that this has stranded should be a flashing red light on the oil industry's dashboard.
And this should be a flashing red light on everybody's dashboard, okay? This should be, hello?
Well, you know what's funny? I want to play this Fox clip right here because it's starting to get to them. Check this out.
Right now is the economic development. As was reported in the last segment, Tesla put 150,000 new Model 3s on the car. That's 150,000 cars that don't consume gasoline. And it's not just Tesla. Porsche, Audi, BMW are all coming out with their all-electric vehicles in 2019. So the inelasticities of demand in this market are fundamentally changing at this market, and it's moving away from lockstep impact on the demand in the market. So that is the overarching concern. As far as prices go, yes, we are at fundamentally the bottom of the market because we are at the lowest marginal cost of production for oil production. So I do expect support to hold here, but I do not expect to see a material rise. That is to say the $70, $80 barrels that we saw last year when we couple the impact of inelasticity demand shifts along with, let's be honest here, concerns with regard to demand, whether it's the PMI, ISM, rash of disappointing reports, or the inversion along the yield curve over certain maturities. There are some headwinds going into 2019.
Stephen, you covered so much ground for us. That was awesome. Stephen Schork, thank you. And I will say this. People dismiss these electric cars until you test drive one or get behind the wheels of one, Stephen. And the torque is incredible. And the driving experience is not, is just as interesting. It's different than a internal combustion engine, but it's a really great driving experience. And you're right. I think people are overlooking that. And thank you for pointing it out. Absolutely. Electric cars, a Porsche electric. In the new year. Coming up. Thank you again.
Yeah, so that was an oil analyst telling us that electric cars are going to do exactly what they said they would do to the oil demand curve.
And then you have a Fox talking head giving a heartfelt kudos to electric vehicles.
Now, you know what's interesting? She puts at the very, very last sentence in there that it's going to be a Porsche. If you notice that.
Oh, it's a Porsche. Of course.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
But very interesting that they had to wait. The Porsche is out now. You can say something nice about electric cars. That's really funny. It didn't happen a week earlier. Right. It happened when the Porsche Taycan came out.
That's true.
So I'm all for it. I'm all for the fact that she gave an actual heartfelt push for EVs because I think a lot of her viewers will be like, wait, what did she say about EVs?
Right.
That's great. That's how the word spreads. But I did think it was funny that it had to wait for the Porsche.
What is this?
That was Italian innovation and design firm Carlo Ratti Associati. They designed an orange juice bar that turns the peels into 3D printed recyclable bioplastic cups from which to drink the freshly squeezed juice. It was created for the global energy company Eni. Feel the Peel will tour Italy throughout October to demonstrate what Carlo Ratti calls the environmental circularity.
Interesting. Now, they also plan to turn the peels into biofuel. I'm not a fan of biofuel, by the way. You don't need to burn anything.
Why not just compost it?
You compost it.
Yeah.
Then you'd have really nice soil.
Yep.
Then you could grow really nice food right where you are.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's so much that we could talk about there. And we will. We will eventually. I mean, there's more.
It's always more.
We always have more.
Check this out. This is a video of a cop running a red light. So see what you think here.
Yep.
So I think what happened, if I think you caught on to this, is that this Tesla driver was at a red light at the intersection and
turns green. There's another guy takes the thing,
takes the left,
which means that he ran a red light. So the cop is going to go pull him over.
And luckily,
Tesla apparently alerted this driver that the cop was going to pull out in front of him.
I just think if you're going through an intersection, glance left and right before you pull through the intersection.
Yeah,
Don't just assume. I mean, if you want to get T-boned, that's how it happens. If
Right.
you don't glance left and right, you're going to get T-boned occasionally.
Or you're going to hit a
cop that goes through the
right.
right. So I mean,
it's like,
but yeah, great for the Tesla that it stopped them.
right.
And let's save the best for last, huh?
Yes, this is the best.
Look at right here. We have somebody trying to drive through the street, and look how high the water's been receding all morning. But look how high the water still is on this vehicle. And again, we encourage people, don't do this. Don't do what you see right there. Very dangerous. Just stay away from roads. Really try and avoid all travel as possible. I'm going to get out of the way right here. So back to you in the studio.
Yeah. So that is a Model X driving through.
I think we need to rename the Model X after that one. That is
this
Water Slayer. It's a Viking, and we need a Viking name for it. I mean, that is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you can drive some gas-powered vehicles through it, but you need an intake that is a snorkel. Right. And this Model X is driving straight through it. I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
Don't just.
And it didn't seem like he had to. Like, I mean,
right, it wasn't raining.
It wasn't an emergency.
It didn't seem like it was an emergency. A lot of people are getting all bent out of shape because he made a wake, and that apparently causes damages to things. I don't live in a place where there are hurricanes and floods to the point where that becomes.
But again, it proves that all those people are like, electric cars, stay away from water. No, they're waterproof. Like they've thought of that.
Right. Obviously, they're not waterproof. If you park them in a flood,
Sure.
it's going to get all messed
Eventually
up.
in there, but yeah.
And thank you, Rich Rebuilds, for letting us know that. But
Right, they're pretty watertight.
I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us so much. And if any of you are interested to join us on our live stream, that would be fun on Thursday. That's coming up. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah. Now, I have some news.
Oh, you have some news?
I am moving to working full-time for this YouTube channel. And I want to give you the biggest heartfelt thank you ever.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And
I mean, because we've been working.
I shouldn't be. Look, I lost my job. And your support makes it possible for me to work at this channel full-time. And I can't tell you what a difference that's going to make to this channel.
Yeah.
Okay, there was no difference this week because they just let me go. But this whole next week, I mean, you're probably watching this right now either on Monday or Tuesday. I'm working on the show.
Yeah, I mean,
working on Tesla Time
so
News.
much of what we do has to be squeezed normally around, your 40, 50, 60 hour work week.
And it was, and I really didn't like it that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go from working a full 8 or 10 hour day to then working another 4 or 5 hours on a show.
Was always overtime for me. And now it gets to be my full-time job. Overtime maybe, but at least I'm working towards everything, and I'm just so excited about it. And I wanted to share it with you guys first. I don't know if it's going to come out non-Patreon things. I think everyone's just going to be like, wow, the news was really well written this week. Because Because we're going to be able to work on it more than just like, hey, I found a story, by the way, Zach, got to get back to work. You know, it's going to be like, hey, I found a story. Let's write it right now on Tuesday.
Right.
And then we could be thinking about it all week. And then, you know, Thursday rolls around. We're like, hey, I think we should change it a little bit. Saturday rolls around. Well, let's change it, tweak a little more. Right. Sunday, this when we record Tesla Time News, we're going to be like ready to rock and roll. We're not even going to be reading off this teleprompter, right?
I still will.
Well, the quotes are hard to memorize, but I mean, like, to have all of that put together, I'm so excited, and thank you so much for making what would have been the worst day of my life be a pretty good day. To just be like, all right, bye. I'm gonna go do YouTube full time. Peace, suckers. You know, yeah. So thank you so much. I look forward to making this channel freaking awesome now. I mean, I'm so excited.
Nice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Just thank you. You guys did it. I mean, if you weren't here and you weren't supporting us, I would have lost my job and I would have gone like, first of all, I would have been extraordinarily depressed. And this episode of Tesla Time News would have just been like, there's a new car. It's a new electric car.
Right.
And then I would have had to go find a new job somewhere. Who knows if it would be a job that I would enjoy. I'd come home, you know, it'd be the same kind of thing. But now I'm pumped. I'm amped.
Nice.
Thank you.